U.S. President Joe Biden is reassuring Americans that there's, quote, nothing nefarious about a surge in drone sightings across the eastern United States. Dozens of people report they have seen, well, this unusual aircraft in the air happening since mid-November. A New Jersey representative says they're often about 6 feet in diameter. They sometimes fly with their lights off. Well, now both politicians from both sides of the aisle are arguing about what these are and if they are, in fact, threats to U.S. national security. Joining us from Coburg this morning is retired Major General Scott Clancy. He's the former director of operations for NORAD. Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, there have been claims of drone sightings in New Jersey, Ohio, and various other American states. First of all, why might we be seeing reports of drones flying over the skies in the U.S. in ways that we haven't maybe seen, or numbers that we haven't seen before?
Well, it's a great question. It's the question on everybody's mind. I think that the number one thing is people are looking. More than anything else, there are lots of drones operating in the United States. There's a million drones that are the ones that are actually registered with the FAA. And in my estimation, in my experience, there's going to be hundreds of thousands more that are not registered with the FAA. So people are looking. That creates a little bit of mob psychology where people are looking at the night sky and misidentifying that which is civilian aircraft or other things. But there are a lot of drones out there. The problem is delineating between that which is malicious and a threat versus that which is just normal drones operating in uncontrolled airspace.
Well, as they're trying to figure it out, there are helicopters monitoring drones in Pennsylvania. There's talk of sending up detection devices, trying to figure out what these are. The federal government and the Pentagon have weighed in. They are insisting there is no immediate threat to U.S. national security. But on the other hand, some Republicans, like President-elect Donald Trump, are insisting that authorities shoot the drones down. What do you think of how the government has responded to this so far?
Well, the first thing is one of the main roles of government is to assure public safety. And that's why we call it the Ministry of Public Safety in Canada. And that public safety is a feeling as much as it is anything else. And what I think federal officials have not done a good job with is coming clean on exactly the difficulty surrounding identification of these lights and contacts, because it is extraordinarily difficult to regulate and or ascertain exactly what these things are, and then come forward with the briefings to the public and to the elected officials on exactly what that is. Now, national security, if you're a civilian or a mayor or elected official, you're saying, if you can't tell me where these drones are coming from, that must be a threat. And on the other side of the coin, federal officials are saying, if we don't have a specific threat stream, then there is no targeted threat. Those two conversations go across each other, and this is part of what's going on.
Well, and that is where the mistrust of government bodies and authorities really comes into play here. People not believing that even if the government knew, they would tell them. Listen, while I have you here, what do you think they are?
I think that what you're seeing is a significant number of drones operating on the eastern seaboard. When I was director of operations for NORAD, and long before that, throughout my career operating with NORAD, we thought the number one next threat that was going to come at the United States and Canada was going to be a swarm of drones against our high-value targets or against the commercial aircraft, and they pose a significant threat. Below 400 feet in uncontrolled airspace in the United States, you can operate a drone without talking to anyone. You can just take it off, and there's very little regulation. Subsequent members of the NORAD staff and especially commanders have spoken to both governments with the need for regulatory policy concerning airspace and the ability to deal with them. And this threat is as much in Canada as it is in the United States.
We played a clip of Joe Biden saying that there is nothing nefarious to worry about. But what could those drones in that airspace that you were just describing be used for?
So, threats are really interesting thing to discuss. Do I think that Chinese or Russian or terrorist adversaries are flying drones in and around high value targets in Canada, United States? Yes, but they're not the ones with their lights on, and they're not the ones that that you're seeing on these clips. However, that doesn't mean that negligent operators aren't using perhaps even footage from those things that are being taken advantage of by our adversaries, and that poses as much of a threat as anything else. And this is part of why I don't think it's as simple as saying, these are just drone operators who are having fun and avoiding the authorities and. It's a lot of things out here, and that's why policy and the ability to deter and regulate are required by government.
All right, fascinating conversation, and I'm glad we got your opinion on this one. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me.